Load up on them carbs.
Carbs.
Can you remember what your first CD you ever bought was?
I think it was Daft Punk.
That's a good first CD.
Yeah, there's actually a cool story behind that. Um, my mom was taking me to the skate park, and it was like right when I was getting comfortable with skateboarding, and I was on top of one of the pyramids. And in my mind, it was like 4 feet, but it could have been like a tiny pyramid, you know. And she basically told me that if I would go down it, because I was super scared, wasn't down to do it. I wasn't to that level yet. She said if I did it, she'd buy me a Daft Punk CD, and I was like, all right, cool, bam, just instantly, no second thought, just did it.
How did you find out? How old were you think?
Oh, like young,
How did you
6.
find out? How did you find out about Daft Punk at 6?
I don't know. I think they were just getting really popular. Probably music videos. Like you remember
That's
when
not
music videos would be on early in the morning and
I
stuff.
used
Like,
to yeah, I used to have the MTV on. I used to watch the TRL.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, watch the whole countdown. My first CD was Backstreet Boys.
Oh, Backstreet's back.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Daft Punk, it's a good one.
Yeah.
And then I had my second CD was a I think Slim Shady LP.
Okay.
That was
That
one of
was
my
one of
first
my
ones.
firsts. I
Yeah,
don't know
and then
which one.
randomly Yin Yang Twins, Me and My Brother. That's the CD with Salt Shaker on it. Ironically, with the the song that I told you about.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's why I have those words so etched in my head wrong because from a young age I thought that's what they were. That's why when you told me what the real lyrics were, I was like, no. I, my whole life, like it's just from like 12. My whole life, I thought the lyrics were something different. I've told those lyrics to so many people because I thought they were funny, and it's not even what it is.
Yeah.
But
No, and then those Now That's What I Call Music, those
yep,
were pretty soon
I
after.
had
I think that was probably like my second CD that I ever owned. No, I take all of this back. The first album that I ever had was probably the Men in Black soundtrack. Because I had that shit on cassette tape. And then I also had, I think, an Aerosmith cassette. I can't remember what else, but yeah, I had cassettes before I had CDs.
yeah, I can't remember having cassettes.
Yeah,
So you must have started listening to music like that earlier than I did.
I don't know. You're an old ass man, so.
Yeah, getting
You
there.
remember trying to get get your CD player to fit in a pocket? Like you have to like wear specific jeans where the pocket's big enough to like slip it in there, and then you're walking around with a fat CD thing in the back seat of your pants. Like, ugh.
It's crazy that skipping used to be an issue. I
Mm-hmm.
remember I would have my CD in my pocket and my headphones on. And where we lived in Beaverton, I'd always hop over the fence to go to Safeway and hop over the fence and every time. Yeah.
Yep. That's hilarious. I started buying them based on size. Like I would try and get a smaller and smaller one. But the fact that you had to have batteries was the real issue, because otherwise it could be so much smaller and compact if you could just charge it. But
Yeah, if they didn't have to have the underside as bulky for the batteries.
dude, I was just thinking about this earlier. Like as we speak, I'm currently using my PC to get this information back and forth from one another in real time. Like you move your hand, it's happening right in front of me. I'm recording that. I could potentially be live streaming that out to anybody with a phone, right? Or connection to the internet for that matter. But then at the same time, I'm also casting a movie from my phone to the TV that's in the living room. So like it's just crazy. Like the how much things have changed. I can only imagine for generations like previous to us that have lived even longer, like completely pre-internet. Like we were alive before the internet was becoming a thing, but technically, like we were
Yeah, but
there.
before
It's
before
been there.
internet before internet turned into something everyone had in their own house on their own
A
computer,
utility.
we weren't that young comparatively. Because I remember getting AOL 1.0 when it first came
Yeah.
out, and I was old enough to use AIM and everything like that.
Yeah.
We're the last generation that lived in a world without the user computer with internet. It's
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
And it would dial into your phone line. That is the craziest thing. Somebody wants to make a phone call. Can't do it, sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
And I mean that made me think about what you're saying. A lot of the generation before us, who thinks that all this technology is so crazy, we even think it's crazy from where we came from. A lot of the older generation just refuses to deal with a lot of
I
this
get
stuff.
it. I get
Like
it.
when I was doing HVAC, a majority of my clientele were elderly people who were retired, and it's pretty standard. You had every once in a while the person that like kept up on it and is
Hmm.
tech savvy, but a lot of them just refused. So I think about going further when our kids are growing up, and I'm like 65. Is that going to be the same way? I'm like, oh, I don't understand this virtual reality.
I don't think so because we are now programmed in a different way.
We're programmed with technology.
Yeah. Like I'll show people keybinds on their Windows interface and stuff like that. Be like, oh, you don't have to Control Alt Delete and then hit Task Manager. You just hit Control Shift Escape, and they're like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like, yeah, well,
Yeah, something basic.
yeah. I mean, I'm interested in it because, I mean, I think you and I took apart a computer for the first time when we were in fourth grade or something. Like, I think your parents had an old computer, or I, maybe there was one, because that's what people would do. You remember that? They just get a new computer. Like, oh, it's getting slow. Out with the old, in with the new.
Yeah,
Nobody knew about formatting a hard drive or
they're rebuilding it.
yeah.
Yeah,
And we're all using like generation 1 anti-malware kind of stuff, and it's crazy. That was pre being able to recognize spam. Like when you see something or pop-ups, like how it's so second nature to us. Like if I'm clicking through websites that have pop-ups and I just boom, click away from them, click away from them. Can you imagine that when we first started using the internet, you would see, oh, enter for a chance to win a $100 gift card, and you just like it was
like
nothing.
like
Like,
like the
oh,
first time that happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like now we have a sense for it. Now we can feel out certain things, and we have like even if you're just looking for a place to watch a movie or something, you can tell which ones are going to play in certain ways, and like based on the amount of time that things take to buffer, you can tell it's crazy. We have a whole new realm of things that we're good at and recognize in general. It's crazy.
That is interesting. That yeah, you have a feel for websites. Like you can
Mhm.
feel when a website's sketchy. You're like I'm not gonna click on anything on here.
Yeah.
You remember Napster?
Mhm.
Those were fun times too.
Yeah.
Just like getting all the music that you
What was
wanted.
the first thing you ever downloaded allegedly?
I can remember downloading episodes of South Park.
Okay.
I can
Okay.
remember that. I can't remember songs or anything like that, but I remember downloading South Park.
Okay. I'm trying to think. Other than music, because I know music was first. I think I went to a buddy's house, right? And because it would take 7, 8 hours to download something. We opened up LimeWire allegedly, and I, it was either Viva La Bam or Girls Gone
Yeah.
Wild, or both
I
at the same
remember
time.
I remember downloading Girls Got Wild. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
Remember
yeah.
staying up late to watch the ads.
That's another thing. Like, can you even? fathom to go back to a time where like that's how hard pressed you were to find some like boobies, you know?
Was to
Like
stay up late enough to
and then
watch the
they'd have like the
commercial.
little things over it, and then every time that it was in the middle, like where they do the actual infomercial part, like hey, order blah 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 blah, as opposed to showing clips from the actual DVD or VHS, I guess back then probably. And you'd be kind of like, oh man, this part sucks. Like,
Get back to
yeah,
the
get back to
blurred out
Snoop
titties.
Dogg hanging out at frickin' Pismo Beach or whatever. It's no surprise that that company went down in a
Yeah, so that was my
flaming
next thing. I was gonna
ball of.
say, do they still make Girls Gone Wild?
No, I'm sure that.
I remember
I
like
doubt it.
the owner or the creator got in legal trouble or I think
Yeah.
something like that.
Well, they weren't checking IDs, and they would go to these places and not necessarily have consent from every person. So they were getting into a lot of trouble, like not being able to prove that somebody that showed a nude portion of their body. Uh, I didn't look that deep into it, but that's mostly what I heard. I don't think that it was like an insane, like
Like
in it.
embezzling or something or
No, 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 no. Like I don't think that there was an actual case of them where they had filmed somebody underage, but I think it was that they weren't being cautious enough, and then it got them into a huge amount of trouble, which is understandable. I mean, that's the least you could do is check somebody's ID to make sure, because at that
yeah, but they're just
then you
going to
can
these
prove that it's
parties.
not an underage girl. If you can't prove it's not, then you're not taking the right precautions in your
Yeah.
filmmaking, you know?
But I mean, makes sense. This was back in the beginning of those kind of videos.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, I'm sure it was the Wild West out there when it comes to, adult content because I'm sure that it was not regulated hardly at all. Because what it was before was VHS tapes, so it was probably easier to regulate that versus randomly and having nobody in security like cyber security fields at that point. So I'm sure it was easy to pass around like horrible content and things like that when the internet first was introduced. It's probably a lot harder now. Um, and
probably
they're probably a
have
lot more regulated.
good. Yeah,
Yeah,
those type of things shouldn't be circulating anyways.
yeah. Or even like I'm sure certain things are okay in certain states, right? Like I know a lot of states like you have to wear protection if you film pornography there, from what I've heard.
Really,
Like there's it's something about like California or maybe it's Arizona somewhere. I don't remember what state it is. It's one of these western states where it's like one of the only ones where you don't have to wear protection when you film pornography.
what a
Um,
weird law. Like we're gonna
yeah,
let you
it's
film two
strange,
people
right?
having sex and then put it on the internet, but better be wearing a condom.
But back in the day, if I uploaded a video, I don't think that they had the proper tools to know where I uploaded it from. So you couldn't even prove if I was in a place where something that I did was legal or illegal or whatever.
Here's what you can maybe explain to me. How do these like movie streaming websites exist with copyright? Are they hosted in foreign countries that they can't track where it's coming from, or do they like are they able to disguise their IP address or whatever? Or like even like the Pirate Bay, how does the Pirate Bay exist?
Um, in regards to the streaming websites, I've done a small amount of research just because I wanted to make sure that I felt like I wasn't doing something wrong because it's not that big of a deal to go down and rent a Redbox, allegedly.
Allegedly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I don't even think I have to say allegedly though, because in what I've read, it's not, and don't quote me, because I have no
It'd be
idea if this
something, yeah,
law has changed or
it'd be
whatever,
something to look into further.
but distributing it in the sense of allowing other people to watch it is not illegal. It's illegal to profit off of doing so, running ads over somebody's movie or something like that, right?
Even though
Um,
they have ads on the site.
that's where I don't understand. And that's where the definition that I was given versus, I mean, because it's rampant, you know. You could go and type in any movie and then one of the illegitimate websites where you can watch those movies, and it's going to be your first thing that populates in your
Yeah,
Google
you can find
results.
anything,
Yeah,
anything you want to
you
watch. And
literally just type in the name of one of those sites. I'm not going to say it out loud just for protection's sake, but you just type that in and then type in the movie name, and there it is. Like,
you're watching.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's ads
Um,
all over the place. And that's where I'm confused, because how it used to be was that if you were a production company, if you wanted one of those sites taken down, you had to hire people to take it down yourself. Does that make sense?
yeah, like they weren't going to devote the resources to figuring it out. But I mean, the reason I said the foreign country thing is because I felt like the Pirate Bay went down. Like they took it down for a while, and then for some reason it came back up. Like I don't know if they weren't allowed to shut it down, but like if it was in another country, do we have jurisdiction? I wonder to find out where it's coming
Well,
from, shut down, or like would the in that country do they not care?
it, it's
I just
not
have
even
to.
that kind of level. You wouldn't need jurisdiction. I mean, if I wanted to take down a website, you can do that remotely. You don't necessarily have to like go to where they're doing it from, you know? It can all be
Yeah,
done
you can
sitting at a
just shut it
from
down.
where I'm sitting right now. You could do it. Like that's how people DDoS people, and you send so many packets of information to somebody's IP address, which is like the address of your home where your internet comes from. And you just send so many packets of information flooding into that address that it completely shuts down, right? So like if you were to allegedly watch stuff on an MMA website, you'll notice when it first gets uploaded, it needs to buffer, it's going super slow. Like the allotted bandwidth that they pay for their web page isn't sufficient for as many people as are trying to watch it. But if you try to watch, 2, 3 hours after it gets uploaded, it'll play straight through fine because the mass influx of people already came through and watched. So if you're trying to watch while they're all trying to watch, it slows down. Or if you allegedly watch MMA live streams, you notice that when the main event comes on, it starts getting sketchy and like loading more and having to buffer and all that.
That's when it
It's
freezes.
because
That's when it
everybody's
freezes.
coming in and they're just absorbing all the bandwidth out of it. That's also why something like YouTube, they pay for an insane amount of bandwidth. So you could have the shittiest internet on the planet and still play a YouTube video at low quality. Don't get me wrong, but you could still play a YouTube video with like just the smallest little heartbeat of internet.
Yeah, I noticed that with Netflix.
Same with Netflix. They pay for a
If
shitload
my
of bandwidth as well.
yeah if my phone internet, if I hit my cap where it slows the speed down, YouTube won't even load. Like anything else won't load, but Netflix will play.
Hmm.
Yeah. Wasn't that don't like Google has like building upon building upon building of just um I don't know what you call it, but those giant tower computers with all the
Yeah, servers.
yeah, they just have thousands of buildings, server buildings. It's crazy.
Yep. It's
The internet.
important. Like if we were running this off of our own website and not using like YouTube as a platform, or Vimeo, or wherever you want to watch videos like this, and we weren't piggybacking off of somebody and we start our own website, we have to decide what bandwidth we want to allot. So like a business will go onto Shark Tank, and if people aren't familiar with Shark Tank, it's very simply people have a cool product, or they have a small business or a growing business. They go in and they talk to people who are entrepreneurs themselves and have a lot of money, and they pitch the product or business to the potential entrepreneurial investors. They'll go on, and the next day or like when the episode airs, their website crashes and they'll end up missing out on a lot of sales because they're only paying for the bandwidth that they're currently needing. You know, maybe 50 people on average are using the website at the same time, so you get X package. But then they have 50,000 people that all try and go on at the same time. Boom, crashes it down because they're not paying for enough bandwidth.
They weren't ready for it.
Yep. It's funny.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yep. Bandwidth for all. Hashtag.
Yeah, it's crazy to think like with how fast internet speeds are now, if there's going to be a day where it's even faster, which I can't even comprehend, like something instantaneous. I know there aren't phone companies coming out with 5G.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's going to be much faster than 4G, or
I
if it's
would
just
imagine.
a gimmick.
Uh, well, yeah, of course it is. But I would imagine at this point, more of the issue is the processing capabilities of a handheld device, as opposed to how quick the internet can actually like pace. It's just more if the device's hardware can handle moving that quickly.
Because
Because
you can only have,
the
yeah.
internet is instantaneous at this point. It can't necessarily get any faster. It wouldn't be necessary for it to be any faster. Because if you have the most badass computer on the planet, right? And you have uh, terabyte internet, which I have a couple of friends that have terabyte internet. You're talking about you click something, it's already up. Like
Yeah, like
you almost
the
feel like
second
it's
it,
up before you even click the
yeah.
link, you know. It's different on my phone, I guess. When it comes to web pages, it takes a minute, but say a YouTube video or Twitch live stream or what have you, as
It's
soon as I
pretty
click it,
instant.
it's
Yeah.
boom, it's ready. It's just that apps are a little bit differently optimized when it comes to what you're trying to do, as opposed to a formatted web page that might be formatted for a widescreen display, and then you pull it up on your phone, which is, I don't know, when it's up and down, I guess it would be 1080 by 1920, because 1920 by 1080 is a regular screen, but if you're talking about flipping it up like this, you're just switching the dimensions, right? So it would be 1080 by 1920.
Oh yeah, I don't know. That went over my head.
So what I'm talking about is
You're
aspect.
saying,
So like
yeah,
the
no, I know what you're
screen that
talking
you're
about
looking at
aspect,
right
but
now
what?
is 1920, so it's 1920 pixels across the bottom of your screen, and it's 1080 pixels up the side of your screen. So if you flipped it sideways, you would just switch those two, because now it's a rectangle
Yeah,
facing
it'd be
upwards.
the same pixels.
Yeah, but it would be different. You're talking about different sides now, because you always go boom, boom, boom. So you go with width and then height, and then you could go depth after that. That would be the way that you would do that in an equation if you were writing it out. Duh.
Yeah,
You know what's crazy?
exactly.
I stopped going to school in like 8th grade, basically.
Your brain's just good at arithmetic.
No, I'm just saying, school's a joke. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, we turned out fine.
Yeah. I think more than fine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think about that. Like, if you just kind of lived under school is what you were supposed to do, and then go to college, and you're living under that pressure from your parents, and you're not really sure. I mean, you know that you're gaining knowledge and learning certain skills to try to help you later on in life, but like going on unquestioned and then going through college, I'm sure a lot of people get out of college and then it kind of hits them where they start thinking about what just happened or what they want to do.
It's not that, it's just the system that we have in place. It's not that school itself is a joke. I mean, I think it's good to have a standardized education system, but it's just
Yeah, and
crazy
it's
that,
and it's exercising your brain as well.
yeah, the issue being that you would teach me something, for the latter half of the year. So, the second semester. I guess depending on where you live, some people had trimesters. So, arguably,
We had trimesters.
yeah, either the second semester or the final semester of the trimester, the third semester, whatever. Wow, that's a lot of time saying the same word that I never say. You would teach us things there, right? And then the first semester of the next year was spent relearning those things. And if you're somebody who doesn't just forget everything over a 2 month, 3 month period of time over the summer, like me, that's really redundant. So you come in, you start learning the same things that you already learned previously because you're trying to keep everybody in the same room to maximize the amount of budget that you can have or utilize your budget best rather than split people into different groups that potentially function in different ways and look in depth at how people take in their information and maybe have different styles of classrooms. Like you could have algebra, but you could have visual learners class, you could have textbook learners class, you could have people that work better with music, there
Or
could be so many
hands-on,
more
or
things, yeah,
yeah,
hands-on things, or there could just it could just be done so much better. It's ridiculous.
yeah. Well, just the idea that this is the way we're going to teach something, and then if you can't learn it this way, like we might try to help you out a little bit with a tutor, but we're not going to adapt this subject matter into how you learn personally. Just is pretty ridiculous to me.
Yeah. Or put any focus.
You can't force anyone to like learn a certain way if that way just doesn't work well for them. And then what is that person supposed to do? They're just supposed to. I mean, you can struggle along and still do pretty decent, but it's just never gonna feel like right. So
Well,
you're
if you're
gonna school to you, like it was to me was like, oh, this doesn't feel right for me. This doesn't feel like what I should be doing. So then like that distance just keeps getting larger and larger the more I went on in school. When I was there and I applied myself, I would do great on a speech or on a test or on something like that, but it just always, yeah, it would fade away.
yeah, that's all I would do is take tests. I didn't participate in anything else that I had to unless it was if you so they would give you the syllabus at the beginning of the year saying this is how much your classwork is going to account for maybe 30% of your grade and tests are going to be this percent and then homework is this percent. So homework usually is right out the window because if it's like 30%, so you're saying if I do zero homework, ace everything like classwork and tests, then I'm good. I get a C. Okay, cool. So how much is classwork worth? Oh, it's worth 20%? Okay, cool. So if I do 10% of my classwork, that will ensure me a 5% boost on my overall grade for the year. And then if I ace every single test, giving myself that 20% of classwork or 20% overall from classwork, that's where I do 10% of that to ensure that if I did fail a couple questions on a couple tests, it would compensate. So tests being maybe 70%, or I'm sorry, tests being to get just a D. You know what I mean? I'd figure
Yeah,
it out to where I could just get
you could
straight D's.
play
Just
you could
straight
play the
D's.
system. Yeah.
It was beautiful. I was actually proud of myself because I was able to get straight D's for 3 years in a row so that I could maximize the time that I had to do stuff I wanted to do. I was already prioritizing my time proper.
See, yeah, I wasn't even conscious of it. I would just normally my path would go goof off a lot in the first like half of it, and then the grades would come out, and I'd have that time where I'd be like, oh shit, if I don't start doing something, I'm gonna get an F. And you knew that you had to graduate high school in some sense, so normally would cram and try to turn in a bunch of late stuff. And
Never made sense to me. Like the way that I broke it down was if you have the means to go to college, which at the time I was supposed to have a fund to go to college. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was like 6, 7 grand to get me started.
well, you can go to community college on that. So
I didn't know that. I didn't know about like the differences in pricing between community versus university. I didn't know any of that, but I knew I could go to a community college if I got my GED, and I knew I could afford to at least start going. Well, I didn't know about student loans, I didn't know about FAFSA, I knew it was a thing, but I didn't think as a 16-year-old dropping out of high school, getting my GED, and then attending college, I didn't think it was going to be that simple. I thought I had to have my own money to be able to do it. But it never made sense to me that we go till we're 18 to get a diploma so that we ensure ourselves of getting into a university. But if you're in that that middle range, there's no ensuring that you get into a university based off of grades and things like that. So you could still end up having to go to a community college potentially, right? 1 year in community college, you can transfer to a university. So, boom, 16 years old, get your GED, go to a year of community college, go to a university after that year, and then technically, you're in a university a year before everybody else.
Yeah, you could definitely. I mean, people do that. People do that. You could have a giant head start and not have to go to another year of high school. But I wasn't. How many people are conscious of those kind of options at that
Oh,
age?
I wasn't at all.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Nobody's telling you can do that. Everyone's telling you get good grades in high school and then go to college. They're
Makes no
not
sense.
going over. There's no class that was like, all right, you guys, here's every possible path you can take to getting into college. Community college, you can get your GED and go to community college and go yearly. Nobody's telling you that. That'd be something you had to seek out on your own.
Mm. Yeah, I had no idea.
I mean, looking back at it now, I I would have got good grades, and then I would have gone to a college and would have had. I mean, but then it's the same thing. Would I have been the person I am now?
I
You know,
would
because
I'd do it the
I'm going
exact
back.
same.
I'm going back to school now on Monday, but like my perspective and my reasonings for do it are so much different.
It's
That's
different. It's different. It's not the
Yeah,
same thing.
I'm looking forward to it. It's the means to an end, and yeah, it's just a lot different. I'm going because I want to,
Well, you're
not
also not
because
going 9 hours a day and then going home and doing homework and all this like extra stuff. Like you might have a class or two classes in a day totaling 4 hours, and then you go do specific homework that you chose to participate in. Like it's not the same thing. And the fact that children are expected to sit in one building and participate in potentially 7 out of 8 classes that they're not interested in, but they're really good at art, but they can't focus on art for 7 hours a day and then spend an hour doing the other stuff. Instead, it's flip flopped. I still think you should learn math. I think that that's a good thing. I still think you should learn history. You should learn all these different things. But if you're not interested in history, why do you need to learn it? Because you could be spending your time doing something completely different. If you don't want to know about the French Polynesian War, then why do you need to learn about it? If you're not interested in that, nobody should force you to have to learn it. You might suffer in the future from not gaining the wisdom of looking at large things that have happened in the past that can teach you lessons about the future, but that's not for me to push that on you in any way. If you don't want to hear a story, you can walk away at any time. You can tell me you're not interested. It's fine. But not in school.
well, and think about how much talent's being wasted,
That's
really.
what I'm
Like,
saying.
if I'm sure there's so many people out there that always kind of felt a certain affliction towards one of the arts or towards something else, but they've never explored it because now they're locked into the job and it's not something that was explored in high school or anything. Some people are like conscious of it enough that they know, okay, I'm really good at art, and they take that on with them after high school. But yeah, think about the talent that's wasted.
That's
What if
what
they
I
would have
mean.
put what if they would have put us into something different?
Yeah, if you had had me spend the portional amount of my day, the larger portion of my day, just doing math and learning math based things, I probably would have attended school. I would have been more interested in showing up because math was my thing. I was exceptional at that. I was good at creative writing and math, and that was about it. So it would have been a different situation. You'd be promoting the thing rather than focusing on the fact that I was not as good in other places. And my aptitude is pretty high, so like I wasn't struggling anywhere, but there was blatant difference between science class and math class, where in science I just didn't really care. I've grown more of an interest now in my adult life, but
Because it's
back then,
fascinating.
yeah,
Yeah.
back then I just math made sense to me. And if you had made that the primary focus of my day, who knows what I would have ended up pursuing education wise, right? But the fact is, it wasn't. And then I have friends that were very artistic. And when we would go to art class, we would make ceramics, we would do drawings, paintings, things like that. It was blatantly obvious that they were talented at that. So again, if you're in that build, I don't remember how long school was, but it was probably 8 hours, 9 hours altogether that you're in
Yeah,
in
it was
in the
like
school.
7:30 to 3:30, I remember.
Okay. So in that time, you're doing an hour of this, an hour of that. Break it down into 7 or 8 classes. It does not make sense to me at all. When you could give me a remedial amount of knowledge in all of the topics that I don't show any sort of aptitude or interest in, because there's no real need to focus on things that you're bad at. It's more about focusing on what you're already good at. I mean,
Yeah, because when you get out of
strive,
the,
hold on.
yes. Good,
Strive
good.
to get better at things that you're bad at. However, when that's the focus of what your attention is on, when you get your report card and you did exceptional in art class, you did exceptional in history, but for some reason you flunked math and science. And now that's the focus. Like, oh, you're able to pass these, but you can't pass these. It doesn't make any sense. You need to start working harder. You got to study harder. Why? It shows that I don't have a propensity towards that type of information because I don't care about it. So fuck off. Let me go draw my pictures and do my thing and give me enough information so that when I get out, I can run basic arithmetic so that I can do my bills, I can take care of, my taxes and things like that, and make sure that I understand where to use punctuation, make sure that I know enough history to understand the history of what is directly around me and what influenced society into what it was. I think that's important. But do you need to learn about Genghis Khan? No. You could have no information about him whatsoever and still function as a perfectly fine human being your whole life who's not missing out on anything because you don't give a shit about Genghis Khan. So why the fuck do you need to hear about him? Sorry. Very passionate
No,
about
it's
that.
fine. I mean, I get it. I get it. I think about how, like, for me personally, I struggled through school the whole way. Like, this wasn't like, oh, your son became a rebellious child at 15 going into high school
Struggled
and
in what way though? Sorry, just for more context.
focus academically, not paying attention. In my, I told you the story from in first grade was always your son's
Well,
very
you
smart.
told me, but you didn't tell
Yeah.
everybody.
Well, no, even like starting off in first grade, I would have bad grades and I had a lack of paying attention, things along those nature. Got tested for ADHD, all those types of things. And my teachers would tell my parents, your son's very intelligent and he has a lot of potential, but he just doesn't apply himself. And even with the pressure from my parents and my teachers, my attitude was still like, I'm not going to do this. This is silly. It's not something that started in high school that like I became rebellious and started thinking differently. I bring that up as a point because as a parent, I feel like if my son struggled first through fourth grade, I'm just going to keep having him go to this same structure, thinking that it's just going to like change all of a sudden, or even expand the time from first to seventh grade, and your child is still just not able to excel in these learning situations in this structure. Why wouldn't you pull them out and try to find something better? Like, your child's not unintelligent. You know that he's just as smart as all the other children. But how long are you going to let it go and just be like, figure, it's crazy to me, which is why we talk about the Montessori school. Like, that should be standard. That shouldn't be something you got to pay for or something that's private. How is that not standard?
Well,
Why?
they need to try and adapt it for sure. I think that that's huge. Like
Yes.
it's crazy that they don't. Because what I described from what I know of Montessori schools is basically how they do it. They see where you show the most interest and where you show the most promise and then focus on that, but you still learn everything. Like an overall sort of understanding and grasp of as many topics as possible. But it's just you get to focus the bulk of your time on the things that you actually are interested in. So you're going to be a
Yeah.
specialist when you get out of school, not,
Well,
best case scenario, you have a small grasp of a bunch of concepts, but you don't have a firm grasp of any. Instead, you come out and you're extremely artistic because that's what you got to focus most of your time on from a very young age. I mean, it's crazy, man.
it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
How many people, so we're talking about high school, and you're learning a whole bunch about a lot of stuff, but there really isn't a designated focus for you per se. You could take maybe a couple more electives and thing, but it's not to the level of trying to be an expert in it. How many people graduate high school, go pick a major in college, something that their parents tell them is good or that society tells them are good, or something they think is going to make money? They get their degree and then they realize it was not something they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So it's a waste. My cousin just went through this exact thing. He went for a business degree, got a job in the field with his degree, and was like, I can't do this. I hate this. I can't. Maybe that wouldn't happen as much if they actually explored what you were good at and what you wanted to do more.
Yeah. Well, and I think you still take somewhat of an effect, right? Because we're talking from a very early sort of developmental age, still starting school around the same time that you currently do. So from that time, you could switch 8 times, 20 times what your primary focus is. Doesn't matter. If you spent 6 months and you were focused on history because you had this propensity for it and you really enjoyed it and you were just on this kick, and then you're like, oh man, we made that clay pot that one day, and I have all these creative ideas about this. Well, let's swap over. Let's start putting you in that class for the majority of your day, and then we're gonna just take a slower history course. Not slower history course. I'm not really eloquently presenting
But
what
no,
I'm trying to
just
say,
not
but I think it
as,
makes sense.
yes, not as much. You don't have to have,
Exactly.
yeah.
But still do it if you want. If you hate something, if you're adamant that like you have no interest whatsoever in a certain subject, why why would you be forced to be in that room? That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, and I do think that there were obvious parts of my issue was not forcing myself to focus, but I'm like a 15-year-old kid. I don't know like
What
what
do
to
you
do
have to
to.
force yourself to focus on in your adult life?
Well, that's the thing. Nothing. Unless,
So what is the skill that you're teaching me? To buckle down and put your nose down into the book and just read it. If I'm not interested in something as an adult, I don't fucking look it up and force myself to learn
well,
about
because
it.
it's not gonna make you happy.
No, I
Like,
don't enjoy it.
it's
It's
not.
not,
Yeah, it's not gonna. The point of life is to be happy.
yeah,
So if something's not making you happy, it's like, oh, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it.
yeah. And to be clear, like I'm curious about everything. I mean, you could start talking to me about the history of strawberries and I'm like, cool,
Yeah.
let's do this. But all I'm saying is that if somebody is not interested in the history of strawberries and I start talking about it, they don't have to listen. They can walk away at any given point. Does not matter. I'm not helping them in any way by forcing them to sit there and listen to something that they're not interested in. That does nothing for you. Again, should you have to, not have to, but should you learn basic arithmetic? Yes, absolutely. But beyond how to add, subtract, multiply, divide, and maybe do some small algebraic equations. Is there anything more that you need? I'm gonna be
No,
honest with you.
why do you
No,
need to know? Why do you need to know trigonometry?
no, you don't. I taught myself calculus, and I started learning trig, but it's really hard to follow along with
See,
just a textbook.
you're math minded. I'm me and math and I don't compute. There's always a thing that here's how you do this equation. Do it 100 times. Oh, here I proved I can do it 100 times. Okay, well we're gonna add a little bit more to it. Do it 100 times. That was insane to me.
Yeah,
It was crazy to me. I couldn't do that. But you have me write an essay? Yeah, hell yeah. I will write an essay all day. I will write and write. Cool. That's awesome.
yeah,
Which is why psychology will be nice because I'm not going to have to do many math courses, and a lot of it is writing and things of that nature. So that's where I go into this looking like, okay, I'm going to be able to improve my skills as a writer because I'm going to be taking it seriously because that's something that I've always wanted to become great at. I just didn't have the drive or the perspective to do it, and I'm going to have a chance to do that. Or like a speech class. I'm not just taking the speech class like I would used to. I would have just taken a speech class because I needed a class and I got to get good grades, and that's the motivation. Now the motivation is no, I want to become better at public speaking, so I'm going to take this class seriously and actually look at it from that perspective.
yeah,
So it's a whole different motivation now, a whole different drive.
yeah.
But yeah, I wonder if anything will be done with the school system, like a major overhaul in our lifetime.
I think
I
it
mean,
has
how
to. It has to. We're pumping out idiots, man. Like, and not idiots in the sense of like every kid these days is an idiot, but we're not empowering people with any sort of personalized, excuse me, personalized education at all. Everybody's coming out with the same education level and everything. In a perfect world of how this system works, you just come out and you know how to do the stuff that they taught you. Like I said, you're not an expert at anything.
well, I
You're
mean,
okay at a couple of things instead of just knowing exactly your path and being able to switch that path multiple times, because how do you learn what you want to do? When I got out of school and I started working, I ended up in customer service, right? And then next thing I end up in sales, and then next thing I end up in a restaurant, and next thing I end up here and I end up there. And it takes time switching off different things, feeling it out, try it for 6 months, try it for a year, see if you like doing this, what's gonna stick. And that's like I always talk about with you, with your son. Like, in my mind, the best thing that you could possibly do is give him every outlet possible and see which one he fucking likes the most.
yeah, I
That's it.
put him in martial arts, put him in dance,
Yeah.
put him in an acting course, put him in
Swimming.
basketball. Yes,
Yeah, whatever.
and then it's like, oh, like he wants to do this one over and
Yep.
over again, and I'm not putting any pressure on him. Like, do you want to do this anymore? No, okay, well it's done. You
Cool.
don't
What do
have
you want to do
to.
now?
Yeah, you don't have to play basketball. You don't have to
Yeah.
play football. Obviously, as a father, growing up playing that stuff, there's that part of you that's like, oh, that'd be cool because I get to watch him do what I did. But it's not about me. If he doesn't like doing something, it's done. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. We don't put any more energy into this. But I wanted to dive into something differently with you saying like, oh, it's inevitable. It needs to happen. I think something that rises in my mind when you say that maybe gives credit to that idea is now obviously there's other things that affect this, but like look how high depression is. Look how high anxiety is. Look how high suicide is. Look how high drug addiction is. Like that's not just an issue of like biologically human beings' brains are becoming more or less able to produce the way they need to, and people have chemical imbalances in their brain. Like that has to be a construct of something else that's going on in our society. And maybe that is that more and more people are waking up to the fact they're not doing what they want and they're not happy. Like if you wake up to the idea that you're not happy with what you're doing and then you have to keep doing it, obviously that's going to give you fucking depression and anxiety. It's like opening up what's we talk it's like opening up the door and looking at your happiness and being like, oh, see ya, like I don't have a choice. Obviously, why would you want to live anymore? Why would you?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So maybe some of that issue is the way that we raise our children in this school structure.
Well,
We don't
imagine
we don't
the
teach
world I
hold
just
on.
described.
Hold on. We don't teach people about like loving themselves, or like we don't teach children, hey, you're enough now. You deserve all the love in the world now. You don't have to go become this thing to somehow be worthy in the eyes of society. You don't have to get a degree to be loved. What if you're fine having a gas station job and playing video games? Like if you're happy, that's fine. But we don't instill that in the kids. That was never instilled in us. So I was like, this is what we have to do of society.
Yeah.
So maybe if we taught kids how to love themselves and like how to do things mindfully, which is there's a documentary I watched where there's schools in the East that are doing this, like
Hmm.
mindfully teaching children in school. Maybe we won't have as many depression and anxiety cases.
Oh, that's a for sure. And
Yeah,
not to mention, like, if you would imagine, just imagine with me, Michael.
if you can imagine all of the people.
In the rant that I went on in my description of this, I had said, imagine you could switch off from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing and potentially go through multiple different primary focuses in your schooling, right? So you were spending 4 hours a day focused on one thing, and then the other 4 hours of the day focused on multiple different things learning, right? The person that you would then be when you graduate from that system is a person who understands that sometimes you might want to completely switch it up and learn something new, and you'd be able to go from one focus to another focus to another focus, and you're going to be more okay with having
That it's okay to change your mind.
exactly. You could be doing something for 15 years and decide, hey, you know what, I don't like this. I'm going to roll the dice on another thing. And because I know how to switch my focuses and maintain the same sort of methods to becoming an expert at multiple things, you could switch later in life and be confident that even though you've done the same thing for 10 years, you've in your early developmental period switched off focuses many times already.
You be comfortable with
Yeah,
that thing happening,
yeah,
and that's why do you think people stay in these unhappy situations? Because they don't feel like they have a choice. They don't
yep,
trust themselves enough, or like, what would everyone think? Like, thank God I have the parents I do, that I'm like, hey, I'm quitting my job and I'm going back to school because it's not making me happy. Think about how many people have parents where their parents would just absolutely lose it. Like, imagine living under that stress, that like your love from your parents somehow exists upon you becoming a productive member of society in something society respects.
yeah.
Like that's why, thank God, my parents raised me so open-minded to like believe that I can do. Well, not even, yeah. Just there wasn't like this is what you need to do. It
Yeah,
was what do you want to do?
yeah.
And yeah, my childhood was chaotic, all over the place, right? Rebellious, all those things, but maybe that's what we're supposed to do more of growing up, so that you can get all that stuff out of your system, so that by the time you're 27, 28, you're like, well, I've done all that stuff. I've experimented. I've failed all these times, and I don't need to do any of that stuff anymore. I don't need to drink. I don't need to party. I don't need to be cool. I don't need to do any of that stuff. Now it's all focused on proving myself as a human being, because the best feeling in life is improving yourself mentally.
There's nothing better. There's
Yes.
nothing better.
And you can tell when it happens. Now in my life, this is also probably maturity of the brain itself, but a feeling or emotion arises like anxiety or depression, instead of being like, oh, fight it all day today. Oh, I can't have this into me. Like, oh man, now it's like, all right, anxiety, that's cool. Like, if you want to be around here for a little bit, it's fine. And I find when I accept it, and just kind of let it go, it goes away.
Yeah. And
I
you
know
just
that
have
kind
to
that
maintain like maintain some type of expectation that regardless of how you feel, you're going to do the things you know you need to do regardless.
emotional maturity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't want to go to the gym, but guess what? That's just what you do. It's not an
that's
option to
yes.
not do it. That's just what you do. That's who you are. And you decide that. So,
Yeah, and I mean this seems small compared to what a lot of people. I don't want to run 6 miles ever. I don't even want to run 3 miles. I don't. I
well, and
really
when are
don't.
you actually going to need to? You're not.
Yeah, but I do it 4 times a week, and every single time at the 4 mile mark, my brain starts going, "Oh, it's okay. You did it 3 times this week. You can
Good
stop
enough.
here. You can stop." And I'm like, "No, what? It's only 2 more miles. Like I'm not gonna die. My legs aren't gonna fall off. And I know that if I stop now, I'm gonna get back to my house and then feel like, oh, you let your mind beat you again. You let your mind beat you again. All it was another miles. And granted, sometimes it'll be like 5 miles and it will get to me, right? I'm not gonna be perfect with that. But then accepting that fact, not beating myself up, it just makes it that much easier to go out the next day. But it's weird. I don't know if it's something that was trained into me, or if I think a lot of people have this, but like that bully inside of your head that just like waits for your weakness and is like, come on, like quit, like that's crazy.
Yeah, we all have it. It's that thing that wants you to be
Why is it there?
shitty. I
Yeah,
don't know.
why is it there?
I don't know. I think it's a fairly recent development in human history to have those sort of propensities because if you think about it, like 300 years ago, do you think people were like actively trying to hurt themselves? No. No way. You just
Because
woke up, you
there were
went out,
simpler times.
found an animal, you killed the animal, you brought it back, you tried to eat it. You had real fucking like real problems. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you were in nature more, and you didn't have a smartphone. You weren't able to compare your lives to all these people's lives every single day. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I I I wish things were more similar to that. As much as the internet and technology helps, I I think we'd be better off. I think we'd be better off more like that.
Hey there, loyal MTAC viewer. Chris and Mike coming at you today with a brand new sponsor, and we are very excited to show this to you. Now, you may not have heard of it before, and that's because it hasn't quite hit the market yet, but it's about to take it by storm. This product and what it can do is going to blow your mind. Okay? Now, follow this link above, follow the link, and you can pre order. Let us show you what it can do. Now, Michael was very lucky to have been sent a sample of this very toxic product. Okay? Now, he's going to demonstrate to you something, and I want you to prepare. Maybe sit down. If there's young children watching, it might be a little bit too much for them. Maybe they haven't seen enough of the world yet. Okay? Now, he's going to show this example. Show them what you can do.
I'm glad that I have this opportunity, you guys, to present to you nonstick glue. I had these two things, and they just kept sticking together over and over and over again. And I was like, man, I don't want this to stick together anymore. Stop sticking together. Watch. I'm gonna bring it. Watch.
Oh my god. Every time. Every time. Every time.
It doesn't stick. It it doesn't stick. I mean, what more of an example do you need?
It I'm telling you, I've seen it 5, 6 times. It looks like there's nothing even on those bottles. Show them one
It,
more time,
it,
just for the people at home. They need to see. They're not going to ruin the random energy drink cans. They're not going to ruin their thermoses. You know, look at this.
I mean, I think of applications like if you had pants and those pants were sticking together every single time.
Right? Who does
Like
that not happen to? Tell me that. Who tries to take their pants off and doesn't have to struggle for at least 45 minutes at least?
I put this on my pants. My pants come on and off simply every time. On, off, on, off.
Man. So again, guys, follow the link above. We would not steer you wrong. I'm going to give you a little spoiler, okay? I want you to click the link, but I get it. It's a new product. You haven't heard of it. Maybe you're a little standoffish right now, okay? What you are going to see, one of the videos that they produced, okay? They took a dragster. We're talking 500 horsepower, okay? And they put it on the tires. Guess what happened? Guess what happened? Those tires did not stick at all. I'm telling you guys.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful world we live in. One last time. Go to the link above. Use code MTAC. More than a conversation. You know it. You love it. And we love to be the ones to send you over there.
So they have Netflix documentaries of Adderall, right? And the thing with Adderall is that it's an issue. Just like opiates, it's something that's way overprescribed. The black market for it is giant. College kids use it as an amphetamine, as meth, basically, to produce. And they say that the reason it's not so out in the forefront in the media as a major issue is opiate crisis is such an issue, and there's so much focus to that. But it's like right underneath it. It's like the next thing that if the opiate crisis got under control more, that it would come more to the light, you know? So
Yeah.
I think about the same thing with depression and anxiety. Like, they might be out there. This might just be something that we need to find. But when is that going to be like documentaries come out and somebody goes deep dive into what in our society is making people like this or anxiety? Like, why is there not like a mental health crisis? I mean, it seems like there's more light that's coming to it, and it might be something that's going to happen. But I would like to see more of a larger action taken on it.
Well, it's becoming more and more prevalent. People that are in the psychology field that are trying to get people away from taking medications. I mean, Rhonda Patrick had a great podcast with Joe Rogan where that was her primary focus, was talking about the method that she has for people when they're trying to get off of these things and confront the issue as opposed to try and mask an issue. So her whole thing is she has a diet set up specific. You know, it's all about restarting your system in a certain way and putting focuses. And when you listen to it as a person who can grasp what she's trying to do, it's funny because it's all the things that all these motivational people tell you. You know, pick a diet, stick to it. And it's a very like basic diet that she has laid out, right? It's certain meats at certain days. That's where I got my initial sort of idea before I had given into any sort of giving up animal products. She was like, you don't need meat every day. You can do it X amount of times per week and it's going to sustain you just fine. But you realize when you break it down, like she's just having you set a schedule for yourself and set expectations for yourself to eat specific things so that you have to fulfill your own expectation for yourself. And if you do these things, then you're setting up a routine. And through that routine, you can develop staying at this line all the time, and then you want to bump up, like you're adding another thing that you expect of yourself. Add one more thing, add one more thing, add one more thing. And next thing you know, you don't have time to be anxious. You don't have time to be depressed about nothing. That underlying feeling of depression is now gone. You might feel sad, or you may lose control of the emotion that you're trying to gain. You may lose sight of it for a minute, but you continue on at the path and you keep chipping away at it and getting better and better at not suppressing the depression, but not allowing it to affect you, because you stay in that mode. You stay doing the same things because you know that those are the things you have to do to fight it. And eventually, it's no longer a fight. Eventually, you're just doing it. It's beautiful. I mean,
you're teaching yourself through someone else's advice. In this case, you're teaching yourself how to manage your depression.
Yeah.
But that's why, like, you say motivational videos, and I think a lot of people would judge it, and it's kind of like a woo-woo thing. Like, oh, why do these guys, like, know how to make a happy life, and, like, what do they do that's so special? It's like, it's not about that. Like you said, Dr. Rhonda Patrick might not make motivational videos, but she's telling you a lot of the same kind of things that these motivational videos are telling you. It's just in more detail.
Yep.
So I listen to these things and I pick out the parts that I'm like, oh, that I can apply that to my life.
She's just giving you the action. You know, you
Yes.
can sit there and listen to somebody telling you, you gotta find what you like to do, and you fucking get out there, and you fucking do it.
Yeah.
But instead
beast
she's
mode.
like, no. Specifically, like, eat this every day. You know, throw in this into your diet once in a while. If you're on medications, this is a good way to start addressing that. You need to have X amount of physical regimen. If you can't start from there, start from here. If you can't start from there, start from here. You know what I mean? If you're not into making your meals ahead of time, then maybe you could tweak it in this way. So she's very much so being specific. She's not saying that the way to succeed in life and be happy is to find what you love and do it and don't let anybody get in your way. She's like, no, like, develop a routine, add things to that routine that you like and that you enjoy, and when you are focused on your health and making sure that things are working properly in your directly related life, whether it be your job, your family, your friends, things like that, focusing on yourself first is going to boost all of those things. And then when you're trying to follow your creative pursuit, like you and I are right now, imagine that I woke up in the morning and I ate a fucking Rice Krispie treat for breakfast, and then go outside, smoke a cigarette, and, like, get mad at my dog and yell at him because he's barking at the door, and then go on to record this podcast.
You'd be carrying it into here.
Exactly.
Imagine if I slept until 11 today, got up and then went on Facebook for 30 minutes, went into the kitchen, made something bad to eat, and then came in here and felt sorry for myself about it because I know that I shouldn't be doing that. I know I'm better than that. I wouldn't even want to do this. I'd be like, this is being fake. This is what am I going to talk about on here? Because if I bring that into it, what I should be talking about with you is like,
hey man, I'm fucking up.
yeah.
I'm messing up today, bro.
Yeah. Otherwise it'd be like this little part that I'm masking because I know that I just had this shit morning. You know.
Well, and
Yeah.
for the people watching, like, to speak from my perspective, and I'm sure I can speak for Michael, that's part of the reason that we're doing this, is because we know all the things we need to do, and we go through periods where we hold ourselves accountable, we give up procrastination, we make sure we make it to the gym. Michael likes to run, so he sends me almost every day. I see him posting, like, running, and that's great because it holds him accountable, because if I don't see it for 2-3 days, I'm like, well, the fuck are you doing, dude? You know? But that's what this is, because we've both had these peaks, valleys, peaks, valleys, peaks, valleys. And
I'm sick
I
of that
want a
shit.
reason to hold myself accountable. I want a reason to come on and when we have the conversation, because we do this with each other as each other's friend and brother, and, you know, just it's a very special relationship that we hold each other accountable. We don't lie to each other. We see what the other person is feeling. We try and figure out with them why they're feeling that way, and that's what we want to share. So if I did wake up this morning and eat a cookie for breakfast, sit on Facebook for 2 hours on the toilet until my feet are numb, and then get off, and then, like I said, I mean, I'll always bring it back to go smoke a cigarette, you know. I still smoke cigarettes, but I would bring that up. That would be what we started this with. It would be, hey man, I gotta I gotta talk about this because I'm messing up and we need to address it right now. And I want everybody around here to know, because we're just as fallible. This is not about painting this picture of we know the way to be happy. No, we do know the way to be happy, but are we doing it every single day? No. And that's what this is. That's exactly what the point of this is to share our trials, our tribulations in the most upfront and raw fucking perspective that we could possibly give it. That is what this is for. And anybody else that feels similarly to the things that we feel, just to know that you're out here, we're experiencing this all together, and you can develop this with a community. You can fight for
You're not
yourself,
alone.
you know? You're experiencing this along with somebody else, and the potential of finding other people that are similar is going to be so drastically raised when you start to make these changes, when you start to realize, I'm unhappy with this, this is what I'm going to fucking do about it, and then you do it, because obviously that's the most important one. You have to do it. I know that if I wake up and act a certain way, I'm going to carry that for the rest of the day. I'm going to go to sleep upset. And then I'm going to wake up upset because of everything that I didn't do yesterday. But again, at any given point in time, you can't tell yourself tomorrow I'll do it better. You just can't. You can't do that. It doesn't work that way. It's right now.
Well,
This minute.
tomorrow doesn't exist.
Yeah, but it's right
Until
now.
tomorrow. Yeah.
You decide right now. And if you have to say tomorrow, go ahead. All I'm saying is you're setting yourself up for failure because you can't guarantee how you feel tomorrow. But if you think you need to start doing push-ups, do them right now. Turn this shit off and go do some fucking push-ups. I'm not offended.
Yeah, don't use us as an excuse not to do your push-ups.
If you know what it is that you need to do and you actively don't do that, you are then going to continue that because you're going to spiral into this negative self-image that you know that you don't do what you need to do. And if you already have the information and you know what you're not doing, you're actively fucking yourself.
And you know what I heard today? That was something that resonates with what you were saying. One negative step is equal to 16 positive steps.
Yep.
It's momentum. It's momentum, and it's hard to get momentum going. It's hard to get momentum going, but once you get momentum going, it tends to keep going itself.
Yep.
But when you stop that momentum, you then have to start it up again, and you got to go through the same thing of rolling. Not that you should not do it again, because your momentum's going to stop. It's going to happen. You're going to have times of weakness. You're going to have times when you don't feel strong enough. But it's what you do in those times that's really going to define who you are, because that's always going to happen to you. Yep. I mean, it's not realistic to not think you're going to have times where you get knocked down on your ass, but you got to get back up. And that's one of the things I always struggled with. I would let things beat me down so far that I just didn't find the strength to get the momentum going. It's like, well, don't waste the energy beating yourself up over anything. You could have just laid in bed for 2 weeks. Accept it. Like, everybody goes through that type of stuff. It's okay. You're all right. Like, we still love you. Get up and go be the person that you're meant to be.
No. And don't allow the thought of where you used to be affect where you want to go. We preach the things that we know the best because we do them. But that's a common struggle with people in general, but it's something that hits really deep for me because I personally will get to a point where I feel like I'm on fire. Like everything around me is just falling into place, and like I start thinking in this metaphysical level that because I'm being so positive, I know that positive things are coming, and I live a whole different life.
You tap into like an energy. Yeah.
Then you realize it's like you blacked out for 6 months and you're waking up and being a fucking shithead, you know? And you recognize that you have changed into something and that you've left a path and now you're on a different path. But the way I always like to put it is that life is recognition and rectification. And how long is your lag time between recognizing your issue and rectifying it? And all you have to do is just make a little smaller gap every time. You learn to recognize it a little better every time, and then you rectify it a little better because you have experience now. And eventually, you recognize the issue and you rectify it in a snap because you've sucked that time down in between you realizing you're fucking up and no longer participating in the activities that were screwing you up, you know? And that's all you could
And
ever ask of yourself.
this comes from experience. Like
Yeah.
I've fucked up a lot. I fucked up so much, and it just got to a point where it was enough. Like I could see, like if you can look 5 years in the future, and what you see is not someone who's happy and not a good situation, how can you continue to do anything that you're doing now that is happen? I mean, if you just take the time to stop ignoring where this could lead you and really pull it out and examine it, and you don't like where 5 years is from now, it shouldn't even be an option to you to continue what you're doing. It just shouldn't even be possible. I know for me, talk about my son. My son's was the best thing that ever happened to me in that context. Now it's everything I do, he's gonna do. So if you do anything from that example I just said that's not going to make you happy in 5 years, he's seeing that, and you're training him that this is how a man acts or this is how
Yep.
a person is. So it's not an option. It's really not an option. That doesn't mean there won't be setbacks, but it's just I have to get there. It's what's going to happen.
Yep.
And I know that's why I tell you when I mess up, because I know you're not going to be like maybe another person and be like, oh, it's okay. Like, you want to come over and drink?
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
it's
she broke
like,
up with you? I'll get us a bottle of whiskey, man. Come
yeah,
over.
no, it's you would say to me, what are you gonna, you know, that's not the right thing to do. Why are you doing that? You hold me accountable for it. And that's the greatest gift I think you can give someone. It's not the easiest thing to do because we've, worked this relationship to a point where it's like that. Granted, it's always been pretty natural between us, but I know a lot of people who have people in their lives who are just gonna let them fall and be like, "Oh, thank God they fell. Now it's okay that I fell. Like we're all falling." Like that's that's one of the big issues is that you gotta examine the people you have in your life as well,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's not always something fun to do because how can you tell someone like that you don't want to associate with them anymore? And it's not about them. It's about what's better for both of you at that point, because if you can't flourish in the situation, you're just going to bring both of you down anyways. But
You ever
you
do
got to be.
something that you know is wrong? Like in the pit of your stomach, you know it's
Yes,
wrong and you
yes,
know you have
yes.
no excuse. No, 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 hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Obviously, yeah, of course we've done that, right? But, and then you tell somebody else and they make excuses for you. Oh, well, I mean, I'm sure it's hard for you to concentrate, or I'm sure it's hard for you to stay with one girl. You cheated on her because you have like a mental sort of faculties issue where it's hard for you to stay committed to one thing. Like, no, I cheated on her because I'm a piece of shit who thought that it was okay to develop a romantic relationship with another person and then throw that out and then lie to that person's face, even though the relationship that I created is one that's meant to be based on respect and appreciation for the other person.
Yeah, you give yourself an out, or somebody else gives you. That's wrong.
Oh, yeah. And why do
Yeah.
people do that? Because they do it for themselves. Because it comes so naturally to make an excuse for you because they fucking do it for themselves all day.
You got to stop making excuses. That was one of my major things.
Yeah.
Is well, it's all
Don't
right. It's
dwell
okay.
on your
I mean,
mistakes, but definitely be very much aware of them. And when you see a similar situation where you have the opportunity to lash out the way that you did previously or act in a lesser way than you would like, you have to recognize that. And you have to know how you're going to make yourself feel and how you're going to affect your own self image, let alone the image of other people. you know, especially when it comes to something like cheating. Like that's always been, I think I've maybe done that once in my entire life because it just, that's a whole nother level, but it could be anything. It could be anything. You drinking too much. Ah, man, well, you know, I know you've been going through some tough times because,
I had a
you know,
long
you
day
and your,
today.
yeah, you and your girl, like, she's crazy and, you know, whatever excuses they want to throw out there. For me, it was always, I was trying to drink myself to death, right? And I would talk to people and just tell them, like, man, I'm kind of hating myself right now because I'm actively trying to hurt myself. And they're just like, man, but you've been through so much. Don't worry about it. Don't, don't let that weigh on you because you should do whatever you need to cope. And I'm like, so what? What? I was in the
I
hospital
wonder.
5 times in 1 year. Yeah, okay. Oh,
Those are
your mom died. It's
ironically.
okay. It's okay. Your mom died. That's something that it's gonna take so much time. No, I could just like realize that
Deal
I'm
with it.
wasting my life and that that's ultimately just disrespecting the irony of using somebody who died as your excuse to waste your life is just asinine when you think about it because they no longer get to experience life and then you're going to experience a shit side of life is not equaling out here, you know? And then
It's disrespectful.
that spiral, that's when you spiral. This has been a great episode, man.
That's what this is about. This is about trying to inspire a viewer who's playing around with these ideas or feels alone because they have those types of influences in their life that are giving them outs, and they can hopefully see this and know that they don't have to be in relationships like that.
Yeah.
You can find friends and you can find people who hold you accountable for things and hold themselves accountable, and you can better yourself as nothing's ever too, you're never too far or too gone or anything like that.
Yeah.
If you could even, I'm serious, you could comment on this video or private message us, and I would talk to people if about these things, if we could share
Absolutely.
experiences. I would love that. There's nothing more. I do that now. I try to, if somebody posts something dark on Facebook, I'll direct message them and be like, hey, like, you want to talk? Like, it doesn't have to be something super super serious. It's like we all go through. Tell me about it, and maybe I can relate my experience to you and tell you what I did.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when I was talking to my brother, and it was like, I feel all these things too. I feel all these things too. We just don't talk about it. But
Yeah.
we need that
Um,
support.
so I think kind of a cool way, because I know that you have some stuff to do, maybe to lead out of this is if I was to make any recommendation based on the bulk of kind of what we've talked about in the second portion, it would be to put yourself into positive situations. So to use Michael as an example, he lives in a place where he doesn't have a lot of close friends around, right? And people that feel similarly to how we do about life, about just existential issues, right? So he decided to go to a temple. You can
Dharma,
explain better specifically what it is, and I'm not saying you need to do that, but he found a place where he believes that there would be a congregation of people that feel similarly to him in XYZ way, right? Um, in doing so, he's met multiple people that align with who he is as a person and has given him, albeit small, but it hasn't been a long time, a very small inlet of people that he, over a month-long period, was able to establish. He went from having essentially nobody aside from a handful of people that he knows from the past, and I'm not judging his friendships out there. All I'm saying is he created it. He is doing it. For me personally, I moved out to LA. I didn't have a lot of people out there that I associated with. I had one friend, right? I decided I'm just going to go volunteer because other people that are volunteering have a genuine concern for something above themselves and they want to affect a positive change. And in doing so, I met multiple people that I was able to start, again, a small community of people that I could call or I could ask for advice or what have you. Let's go out and get a cup of coffee. It started to allow me to give myself the thing that I was so craving because I went out in search of it.
It's important.
I went and fed little kittens at the animal shelter. I ended up meeting like 2, 3 people that I enjoyed their company, and we hung out once in a while and would talk once in a while. And that's what I would recommend is find the thing, something that you have even just a small amount of passion for. Do you love poetry? Do you love movies? Do you love anything like that? Go to a movie screening. Go somewhere where people are going to be compiled that all love movies, right? Go to um, like one of the screeners, like I said, before a movie comes out. What are all those people wanting to do after that movie? They want to talk about it. So go and interject yourself into a situation where people are doing those things. Find a community kickball game. It blew my mind. I'm just going to bring this up real quick. It's off topic, but I was walking through a park one day with one of my ex-girlfriends, and there's people playing kickball, like adults playing kickball. And I was like, what the fuck is this? So we walk over there, and I'm not a drinker or anything anymore, but I appreciate how you can have some fun and have a couple of beers. It was an adult league where you sign up online, you show up at the park, and you have your team, and you get to go out and play kickball. And they had a keg at the home plate, so you would sit there and you would fill up a cup, and you just had to you had to hold your cup the whole time that
That's
you
awesome.
played, whether you were pitching, if you were running, whatever you were doing. It was
That
super
must be
cool.
hilarious.
And
Yeah.
guess what? All it would take is just looking it up. Think of something you like, look it up on Google, find that community, and start participating. That's all I got.
Yeah. If you did want to know, if you're in the San Diego area and you wanted to know where I go, it's called the Dharma Bums Temple. It's a Buddhist temple, but it's not. You don't have to be a Buddhist to go there. They don't preach being a Buddhist. It was um, the founder's adaptation to bringing Buddhism to a Western culture. But they have movie nights on Fridays and things like that. And like you had stated previously, it's just a great community of people who are trying to improve themselves, trying to have a higher understanding of why they act certain ways, and then sharing those experiences with people. If you looked it up on Facebook, you'll find their webpage. It's in North Park. Uh, yeah, I'd love to see anybody there. It's done great for me, and even people that I've met while going there. You find out other opportunities as well for things like this. So
Yeah.
shout out the Dharma Bums.
Yeah, I mean, all I'm saying is if you're sitting there and you're not feeling so hot recently, or maybe feel lonely from not having people around, just know there are people out there, 100%, that share similar views and have that feel similarly to you, that just because you don't have somebody directly in your life, if you don't have your Michael or you don't have your Chris, that person is out there. Those people are out there. You have to go find them. And it's so easy to sit there and believe that you feel alone and that nobody else feels the same way. But you gotta push that feeling down, tell it to fuck off, and go out and find them. Just go find your people.
You gotta do something about it.
Just find them.
Because I know, yeah, you're not alone. That's the
You're
thing.
not.
Everyone
You're really
everyone
not.
thinks they are, but you're not. Everybody, there's a lot of people how you feel. It's just not common for people to talk about those things, so you don't feel like those other people are out there. But it could even be the person in the Target with you that
Yeah.
you think is so different than you because you're looking at them and they just seem so happy and they seem so different. That person very well might be you.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that you act the same way, and you put this mask on when you go outside, and nobody knows that you're in pain inside. Nobody knows that you're suffering because you have to talk about it. People don't just know these things most of the time. Most of us are really good at hiding our feelings,
Yeah.
but a lot of the time, it's the people you don't expect who you might relate to the most.
Yeah. And you have every outlet you could need. You could be, maybe you're really into shoelaces. You're fascinated with shoelaces, and you have 80 different pairs of shoelaces. Guess
And
what?
you want to make
go and find somebody that makes videos about shoelaces. Reach out to them, talk to them. Go find a blog website that people are all about shoelaces. You know, those people are out there, and they're going to want to talk to you just as much as you would want to talk to them because you both share an interest. Just find your interest and find the community because it's already out there. I mean, we live in a crazy day and age. Like I said, shoelaces is super obscure. Maybe you're really into bracelets, you know? Find a community that's really into bracelets. Start making bracelets and posting videos of those bracelets on social medias or what have you. I just think the most important thing is to find a community of people that can help you grow. And
community is, yes.
Knowing that people out there are convinced that they're alone and that there's nobody else that feels how they do, or that they're obscure to the extent of being a social pariah is just, it's the saddest thing. And it's simply not true. If you like something, other people like it too, for sure. People still listen to Hanson, you know? I'm sure there's a small group of people. I mean, maybe it's a big group. I don't know. I'm not trying, not throwing shade on Hanson right now. I'm just saying there is a sect of people out there that every morning they wake up and they go and they look at their Hanson poster, they hit play, and bop, 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 diddy doo wop, and they're getting down every fucking day since 1998 or whatever, whenever that came out. You know, go find that guy. You and him could hang out, go get a beer, you know, shoot the shit, talk about how much you love Hanson. Why not?
No, yeah, I know.
I mean, it's like it's funny and it's meant to be funny. Obviously, I was trying to be funny, but it's true. There are two people out there that do that every day, that wake up every single day and they listen to Hanson. That is 100%. There is no way that there's not two people on the planet that wake up and listen to Mbop.
Well, say like this, right?
And they need to meet each other, and if that's you, go out and find him.
Yeah, I mean, if you and I hadn't have been childhood friends, and we were strangers up until this point, and we crossed paths on the street, we wouldn't think like, oh, that guy thinks like me.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that. But maybe you should. Or at least be open.
Damn, look at that ass. That's what I'd be saying.
But yeah, this has been a great episode. Thank you guys for listening. It's really awesome. Do reach out if you do feel so inclined. You will get a response.
Literally about anything.
Yeah, anything. I got to go pick up my son. So I'm going to be going and having some fun.
Cool. Well, we love you guys. Thank you again for watching. And tune in next time for a little more than a conversation.
Our atmosphere is good in the morning. They're more positive songs. His more positive songs. Not so much just any random one, because he could end up with like she was shooting too much heroin in her arm and then died, and her kid hates her now and cries. He has some pretty dark songs. I don't listen to a lot of atmosphere. Yeah. It's a lot of good storytelling, but sometimes that storytelling goes in a pretty dark path. Can you remember what your first CD you ever bought was? I think it was Daft Punk. Oh, that's a good first CD. Yeah, there's actually a cool story behind that. My mom was taking me to the skate park, and it was like right when I was getting comfortable with skateboarding, and I was on top of one of the pyramids. In my mind, it was like 4 feet, but it could have been like a tiny pyramid, you know. And she basically told me that if I would go down it, because I was super scared, wasn't down to do it, I wasn't at that level yet. She said if I did it, she'd buy me a Daft Punk CD, and I was like, alright, cool, bam, just instantly, no second thought, just did it. How did you find out? How old were you? Oh, like young, 6. How did you find out about Daft Punk at 6? I don't know. I think they were just getting really popular, probably music videos. Like you remember when music videos would be on early in the morning and stuff. Yeah, I used to have the MTV on. I used to watch the TRL. Mm-hmm. Yeah, watch the whole countdown. My first CD was Backstreet Boys. Oh, Backstreet's back. That's what I'm saying. Daft Punk's a good one. Yeah. And then I had, my second CD was I think, Slim Shady LP. Okay. That was one of my first. Yeah, and then, anyway, Yin Yang Twins and Me and My Brother. That's a CD with Salt Shaker on it, ironically, with the song I told you about. Yeah. I think that's why I had those words so etched in my head wrong, because from a young age I thought that's what they were. That's why when you told me what the real lyrics were, I was like, no. My whole life, I just felt like 12. My whole life I thought the lyrics were something different. I've told those lyrics to so many people because I thought they were funny, and it's not, you know.